Hello, everybody. My name's James. Welcome to another Planet FPL Clash of the Correspondents. Now, I must give you the caveat before we start here. We're pre-recording on Sunday morning, and game week 35 is only half done, but it is done for my two guests this week. Firstly, let me introduce you to our Fulham correspondent. It's Lewis James. Are you, Lewis?
I'm good. It's early, and I'm
It
good.
is. That's your fault, by the way. I won't
Yeah,
explain
it
why.
is. My bad.
And our Everton correspondent, Sean Norton's here. How are you, Sean?
I'm all good, thanks, James.
Good stuff. Lewis, at time recording, obviously, yesterday you lost at Villa. Bournemouth won at Arsenal. We obviously don't know how Brighton and Brentford have done yet this weekend. But how do you feel about this prospect of eighth now?
I think it'll just change again next week. I think it's a game to game basis. One team wins, the other team loses. I think we've got the capability of winning the last three games. Do I think we will? Probably not. But yeah, I mean the Arsenal Bournemouth game was a big one. I think Bournemouth clearly just got Arsenal at a
Good
good
time.
time in between the Champions League ties, so that obviously helped them. But yeah, I don't know. It'll change next week, but I think injuries and maybe an inconsistent form might cost win the end.
Does
Or
it,
Palace winning the FA Cup
d
anyway.
well, yeah, and it's worth saying, yeah, you're obviously going for this Conference League place. If Palace win the cup, it's probably immaterial anyway. Does it feel like you've got to be sort of circa 7 points or so from these three games to do it?
Yeah, I said before the Villa game we needed like 6 points. I think now it's probably at least seven. It's doable. We're unlucky at City last in their home away game, sorry. And then they'll obviously have the FA Cup before that game. So maybe we'll do what Bournemouth had with Arsenal. They might just not care about the game.
Yeah. Yeah, it could
Um,
look better than it looks on paper. Obviously, there's
yeah,
Everton this weekend. Obviously, Brentford is very much a challenge, but also winnable in 37. Then, yes, City at home.
yeah.
Final day, as you said, it could be a City that doesn't give a
And
shit
we
in
always we
Villa.
always have close games against City in recent years. It's never normally a smashing. So yeah, it's
That's
still
funny
doable.
that because I'm pretty sure I was outside the home end being pretty worried at Tottenham, being pretty worried about Arsenal. Didn't City beat you 4-0 at Craven Cottage right late last season?
Maybe. I don't know.
No,
No, it couldn't have
I
been
think
last
that
season.
happened.
No, last season it was 2-1. We had two players went off with broken limbs. Someone broke their ankle. I can't remember who that was. I was at the game.
Sure,
2-1.
that went here before, mate.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's 9:21 on a Sunday morning. So
Well, you're ahead of me
in
because it's only
your in your brain, football brain has got a bigger archive than my football brain.
yeah. I'm really getting really good at remembering other teams because I keep trying to wipe Tottenham from my memory. Sean, how are we, mate? How are we feeling about Everton and the rest of this season? Does finishing above 17th matter to you or not?
Me personally, no, I'm not asked. It's
No.
like it's a crap finish, whatever we get. So
How disappointing is that result against Ipswich yesterday?
yeah, that was probably the performance was more disappointing. Obviously, you want to win, especially these last few games with Goodison, but it wasn't like we looked like winning in the second half. We were rubbish, really, really, really poor. We didn't get a corner. We didn't have a shot on target. The XG was about zero point 0.1. I mean, we've done nothing.
Is that credit to Ipswich, though? Coming back from 2-0 down, obviously.
Well, yeah, that's part of the problem. They look like they wanted it far more than our players did. And we use the term on the beach, don't we, with FPL teams regularly, and it did look exactly like that.
That's
Sadly,
interesting. I mean, there's some interesting notes on recent results for both of you. Lewis, we last spoke to you before you were playing Palace in the league game, and they beat you, and obviously they beat you in the FA Cup quarter final as well. But your record, including that Palace game, running since is lost one, lost one, lost one, lost one, lost.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sell that and say, right, so actually that's 4 wins and 6 defeats from the last 10 in the league. And if you throw the Palace game in, it's another one, the cup game.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, you spin it different ways because it's like, you could maybe draw a couple of them wins and losses, and you get more points from a win and a loss, sort of net positive.
I mean, that
Uh,
Crew's beating Liverpool in that run as well, right?
we were really good that day, to be
You were.
honest. Yeah, we deserved it. And I was happy about it because we've played them a lot as well, and we've been unlucky. Same with Man United. We seem to have really good games against the big teams and often fall short. Um, well, we did, and then we seem to have picked up points against Arsenal, Liverpool now. We're unlucky against City, but we could still do them on the last game of the season. So
Everton good opponent for you or not?
no, I think it's something silly like we've took 20 points off the top six this season, like the current top six. Or I think before the Southampton game, when Forest was still third, I think it was we took more points off the top three than the bottom three. I
Yeah,
think that
you've
says
had
it
some
all.
sloppy results, haven't you? Ipswich
We drew with
and
Ipswich
Southampton,
twice,
you've drawn at home, Ipswich away,
yeah,
Leicester you beat at home very early in the season, didn't
and
you?
away, yeah.
Sean, this is a good fixture for you away to Fulham?
Yeah, there has been the last few years, although, I mean, the last couple have been 0-0. And then we won the one before that. I think it was 3-2. Um, so I can't see there being 3-0 on the run. So I reckon there'll be goals in it, especially the way, we're not defending great. The loss of Tarkovsky is big. And I spoke to you on the last pod. I think it was when we were playing Wolves about really FPL players should flip their interest and come away from defenders and maybe look more at the offensive players. But then we've got a spate of injuries, which wiped most of them out anyway.
Yeah, I forgot about that when I put double Everton defence in on my wild card this week, but I'll come back to that. I noticed you said on socials that there was a bit of discontent growing from Evertonians after the defeat at Chelsea, and I think you'd kind of got your message out to say like everyone needs to calm down a little
Yeah,
bit. But actually, following the draw with Ipswich, in terms of your league results, it's now 1 win in 10.
yeah,
You can also slide that and say you've lost only 3 games in those 10, and those were to Chelsea, Manchester City, and the
yeah.
red team down the road. And you were a little unfortunate that night, I think, about Beto going through at 0-0, etc. So how do we read this? There's a lot of draws in now.
Yeah, yeah. But that, I mean, under previous managers, they'd have probably been defeats, wouldn't they? I think that's why, when Moyes come in, he just wanted to obviously get as many points as he could, however he could. And then, it's credit to him, he's been able to do that playing more attractive football than the previous manager was. I mean, it's still not great, obviously, but his hands are tied with the squad of players that he got. I personally think they were, overperforming for the first couple of months, which we regularly see with managers when they come in, and I just think they've all they've leveled out a bit, and a lot of them are out of contract as well, so you don't know, where their own heads are at personally. Do some of them know they're not going to be there next season? But some of them not got the moves lined up that maybe they would have been looking for. So I think there's a mixture of a lot of things going on. I'm sure Moyes is the type of manager that will demand more from players as well. So I'm sure he's told one or two of them, if they want to stay, they need to do a lot better. And I just think we're sort of seeing that now in the performances and obviously the results. But we've done this for years with not obviously this squad of players, but a lot of the players have been of similar ability level. And for 3 or 4 years, we go on these. We have little fits and starts, little pockets of good results, and then we have long periods of time where we won't win a game. We won't win a home game, or we won't win an away game, or we go 10 games without a win, or 1 win in 10. And it's happened under Lampard, it's happened under Benitez, it happened under Dyche. Now it's happening a little bit under Moyes. And fundamentally, until we get much better players, it will keep happening, whoever the manager is.
So it's almost like a legacy of being Everton.
Well, not a legacy of being Everton, a legacy of being sort of cash-strapped Everton
Yeah.
with PSR issues, and because we all know we monumentally messed up when we did have money, and we've had to go through these sort of days of austerity, seasons of austerity that me and you spoke about that thankfully are finally coming to the end, but we'll only improve and be back where we should be if we start spending money wisely, like now. the majority of this league do.
You really can spin the narrative on your results either way, right? So even
Yeah,
from those 10 games I've just mentioned, we only won one. That was a victory at Nottingham Forest, which obviously was almost like
yeah,
last kick of the game, but you thoroughly deserved to win that day.
yeah,
You could also sell it and say, well, it's only three defeats and 15. So you
yeah.
really can sell the narrative on this either way. Lewis, I want to speak about Marco Silva. Is there any chance he's not your manager next year? And it's not even necessarily leading into, I feel like every correspondent I speak to lately, it's like, I might be after your manager for next season. There's no guarantee you take the job. But I have heard some speculation that there might be a departure this year anyway. Have you heard anything?
Um, nah, I've not heard. I'm the other way. Like normally, Silva's constantly complaining about the board or about money or not spending money, and actually, in the last since Christmas, he's been nothing but praise for the board, and they seem to have finally realized that let's just let him do whatever he wants, and the results will come, sort of thing. So, I actually think he's the happiest he's been at the club. Um.
A cynic might say he stopped complaining because he knows he's leaving.
Mhm.
But then he said a lot of embargo comments say that him and the board have already know their transfer targets for the summer and they've got plans whether they get into Europe or not. So whereas normally it's like we get to August and it's like all right, like let's start looking for players, and it's normally a rushed job. Like even this season we went to Man United and I think we signed like three players after the Man United game. Yeah, it's obviously that can't happen this year because
Yeah.
the window shuts before the season
Have
starts.
they confirmed that? I know
I,
there
I
was
believe
talking about
so.
it.
Yeah, I think so. I think the clubs agree to it. I think there's
Is that
more
right?
like
I've not seen that. The problem with that always is that they close before the season, which I think is what everyone wants. But all the other European leagues go, no, we're not doing that. And then the Premier League realise they're at a disadvantage for 3 weeks of the
mm.
transfer window, and so then they change it back. That may well happen again. I need to check that out. Do you almost feel like Lewis qualifying for Europe could be a bad thing?
Um, it's possible. I think it can be maybe like a poison chalice. I think teams statistically with smaller squads that aren't used to Europe or aren't built for Europe struggle in the league because naturally the European competition takes priority, it's like a new thing or you haven't seen it in a while sort of thing. So I don't think we have the squad capacity right now to challenge for Europe, but obviously we would add considerable squad if we got it.
The other thing to say is what's really interesting with obviously the Conference League, whether it's you, Bournemouth, Brighton, Brentford, if any of you do go into it, you can win
Palace.
it, mate.
Yeah, no, I think any English team that is in that competition should be favourites every season, to be
Not
honest.
necessarily. It depends who goes in from the other leagues, but it feels like
Yeah,
you
but
should go
it's
deep, of course.
you've got no drop downs from like Europa League anymore with the way that the competition
Yeah.
works. So it's the same with the Europa League this year. You haven't got Champions League teams coming down into the competition, which some would say makes it a Mickey Mouse trophy.
Everything's Mickey Mouse till you win something yourself, in which case it's not Mickey Mouse for clarity. Sean, talk to me about Goodison Park. Obviously, yesterday the penultimate game against Ipswich, one to go against Southampton. Well, I guess first and foremost, you've been in a new stadium, haven't you?
I have, yeah, I have.
So, I mean, I've spoke to you a number of times over the last year or so about the kind of the horrible pull I felt the last year of leaving White Hart Lane. I obviously our place wasn't built at the time that we left. You've obviously had an eye in already at what the new place looks like. How does that affected how you feel about leaving Goodison, seeing actually knowing what you've got to come?
So it's it's absolutely amazing. The new stadium is brilliant. It's quite breathtaking. It really is. Um, but I've got to be dead honest. Like if it wasn't for like financing football, I'd stay at Goodison. If I had the choice, I'd stay at Goodison. Like my youngest son's like 11 and he's like football mad. Um, in recent times, and like he come with me. My two sons come, but my youngest son, he just keeps saying to me, "Oh, I wish we were staying at Goodison Park." And that's not because there's any disappointment with the new stadium because it genuinely is amazing. I mean, the area it's in is a bit of a dump, but the stadium itself is fantastic. That area is going to get regenerated over a long period of time. So eventually it'll be in an extended part of the city down there. But right now around the stadium doesn't look great. But the stadium itself, once you go through the wall, it's before you get to the actual stadium, the fan plaza area is just huge. I mean, there's talk that they're going to have, small concerts outside the stadium in the fan plaza because it's that big. And you just walk around the stadium and it's so picturesque. The stadium itself is amazing. I know you've been, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been to Ajax, haven't
How long have you
you?
got?
So like, I mean, I've never been, but obviously you see it on the telly. And when I got into the stadium and then went up onto my seats, it reminded me of that type of arena feel that I imagine that stadium's like. And it was quite a sort of continental feel to the stadium.
Very
Very,
steep,
very,
isn't it?
very, very
Looks it.
different to Goodison. Very, very different. But it's big. It feels big. Feels big, feels modern, feels like the right thing to do. But Goodison Park's it's a special place. The league will be poorer for not having Goodison without a doubt.
I think next season Everton might be poorer for it. And that's not to say you'll
Yeah.
have worse results than you've had
No,
this
no.
year, but I think
Yeah.
you'll have a period where I think all of us think, oh, Goodison. Do you know what I mean? You have that
Yeah.
feel. I always say if you get under it at Goodison, don't matter who you may end up struggling if the crowd are
Yeah.
on side, there will be a period of adaptation for the whole club.
Definitely.
Can you explain the wall to? I know what it is, Sean, but you mentioned everyone goes through the wall. Can you explain that to people? Because a lot of our listeners and viewers are obviously going to go next season.
Yeah. So basically, where the stadium's situated is obviously it's right on the banks of the River Mersey. So there's a road, and then the stadium's to the left of that road, and the only access into the stadium is through the wall. So, part of building the stadium was, the club had to be, they're very restricted in what they could actually do as part of the development of that dock area, because it's all protected. So they had to sort of redevelop the stadium with the surroundings, but firmly kept in place. So there's basically gates in the wall. So there's only certain access points to go through.
So am I
So
right in
it's
saying
all,
everybody has to pass through that?
yeah.
I imagine before the game it's not too bad. This isn't going to be fun after the game, is it?
Well, no. So at the test, I went to the second test event. There's still a third one to come. That the date and everything's not been, shared what that's going to be. But at the first test event, 10,000. The capacity is going to be, 52,888. So the first event had 10,000. The one I went to had 25. And part of getting their safety certificate was they had to prove that they could evacuate the stadium. So after about 60 minutes, 65 minutes, everybody had to get out. So you've got 20, that was half the people in the stadium all had to leave at the same time. Now it wasn't great. But also, I didn't think it was horrendous. There was videos on social media and stuff. There's a bridge on the bottom road, the road closest to the stadium. There's a bridge. It's been there forever. And because there's like a concertina effect going on, they had sort of stop go signs, and people were videoing the queue and going mad and sharing it. But all you have to do is turn left down any of the roads, and you can go bypass it basically.
So
So
avoid the
there's way,
bridge on the way back to the city, basically.
yeah, there's plenty of ways around it. But if you had 50,000 fans, it's not going to be great. People should firmly have in mind it is going to take a while to get away from this stadium.
Sean, you know what that means next year, don't you?
What?
Lots of people going to leave that ground early.
Well, I think see, this is where Everton have got to get the pricing of the stuff inside the stadium right, because they want to encourage people to stay behind. Obviously, mainly Everton fans, and spend the money at the ground. It's going to be open all through the week as well. There's various restaurants that people can go and use. But if you don't get the pricing right, the people in the area, there's so many other places around that are not far away. People are not going to pay the prices that they have for the test event to stay behind after the game and drink or eat, etc. And then, yeah, you might have. I mean, people do it now at Goodison. There's lots of people that go sort of 5 minutes before full time. And that's, regardless of how much added on time there is, because it can be a nightmare getting away from Goodison traffic wise. So yeah, there will be a lot of that.
Okay. And Goodison?
Yeah, it's very hard, very emotional. I couldn't get a ticket for myself and my youngest yesterday. I got one for my eldest lad, so I let him go for the last time.
Is this the bit where I do a plug and say if anyone can get Sean tickets for the final game, let him know?
Oh yeah, I'll sell my soul for the
Okay.
ticket.
So some might say you've already done that by the team you support, but
Yeah, this is just punishment, isn't it?
yeah,
I must have been a right horrible person in a previous life.
that's not for me to say.
But yeah, so we went over anyway, and took my eldest lad over, and then me and my youngest just hung around the stadium for as long as we could, and then went to there's Weatherspoons where you can still see the stadium when you're at the Weatherspoons. So we watched the game in there on my phone, and we'll do something similar if I can't. If no one's able to get me a ticket for the home game, we'll be in and around it as much as we possibly can because
And
it's a
again, differences for me and you. The stadium's staying, right? As it stands, am I right in saying the women's team are going to play there next season?
Well, it's not confirmed, but the belief is that the Friedkin group are exploring the opportunity to stay very, very seriously because the women's team are leaving where they play anyway, because there's a price increase on what it's costing the club to play there, and they want to get more fans anyway. So it kind of makes sense. Women's football, if you invest in it, any costs don't count towards PSR. So there's a good chance
So at the
the
moment, there's no
Goodison.
plans to demolish the stadium at all.
No, no. In fact, they actually stated that they're going to do everything they can to make sure the stadium isn't demolished.
It's interesting that because again, differences between what I experienced and you experienced. Obviously, with ours, bulldozers were in literally the next morning, first thing, knocking it down after our
Yeah.
last home game. The very next day, it was basically gone. I
I
know.
could. I mean that I can't imagine how hard that must be. But like your stadium's basically just it's
It's in the
rotated the
same
other
place,
way,
yeah.
isn't it? Yeah. So I mean, at least you know that your new one's getting built. But I mean that'd be just heartbreaking if that happened. But thankfully, it doesn't look like that's the case. Although the shop over the road, which I know you've been, so you'll know what I'm talking about. But the
Yeah.
club shop that's just by the road. Me and my youngest went there a couple of weeks ago. We're there practically every bloody weekend. That's all he wants to do is come make me buy him Everton stuff. But there's a to let sign in the window that he noticed straight away. So I think as soon as the season's finished, that's probably going to be gone, and they're going to move out to there.
I hope it goes well for you, mate. Enjoy it, celebrate it. Don't. There's reasons to be sad, but celebrate it as well. You had obviously had
Yeah.
great memories there as a football club. Is there a particular one for you?
Oh, it's really difficult narrowing it down to one. And I can't really split the game where we beat Manchester United 1-0. It was a night game under the lights. Duncan Ferguson 1-0, and it got us that bit closer to qualifying for the Champions League. But also there was Joe Royle's first game in charge when we'd suffered the Mike Walker days, and Joe Royle come in and we
Against
beat
Liverpool, 2
Liverpool
0.
in his first game 2-0, and Duncan Ferguson got his first goal for Everton, and that was a special night as well.
Nice. Lewis, I'd see the Riverside stands actually getting full now to flip from one stadium to another.
Yeah,
Has there been any
it's not.
feedback on the cost still? Because we're talking about near enough the most expensive ticket in the
It
league
is the
now to
most
sit up there, isn't it?
expensive, yeah. Well, I don't think it's fully open until next season, still, but yeah, it's expensive. I mean, I was looking at obviously I'm based in Newcastle, and we played Chelsea on the Sunday a couple of weeks ago, and I could have got train tickets for like 50 quid. That like return the same day, but the only seats I had were like the Riverside, and they were like 180 quid. And I said, nah, you're not having my money. You know what I mean? So that's still ridiculous. I mean, they've increased the season ticket prices of the whole stadium by just under 3% next season. Well, don't understand how they can continue. And then a lot of Fulham fans, they're, oh, it's better than I thought. And it shouldn't be at all. Like, we've already got some of the most expensive tickets in the league. Like, we don't need another increase.
The problem is,
But
this is
people play.
a specific problem for you and other clubs. I mean, where you play is one of the nicer areas of London. I think
Yeah.
it's very fair to say. How can they keep increasing the ticket prices? Would obviously not bother this. It's Fulham fans having the tickets or not.
But it's
Is the bottom
not,
line.
yeah, it's just
A
tourist.
tourist is going to pay
Yeah.
that, mate.
No, yeah,
A
no.
Premier League game, Fulham against Chelsea.
No, yeah. That's that's the club that are selling their soul for a stadium that, to let's be honest, isn't renowned for its atmosphere at the best of times. So,
Mm.
you might as well play behind closed doors sometimes.
Okay, let's talk a bit of fantasy. There will be a lingering of Fulham assets. I think it's probably more that in people's teams, particularly after obviously the blank game. Have you got any Fulham at the moment, Lewis?
Yeah, I wild carded last week because I didn't have any chips left for the blank. I brought Sesson.
Okay. What's the plan now? Because obviously at Villa is back on the right wing, but
Yeah.
this time, I mean, he had a goal disallowed correctly. Obviously hit his hand. We know the law on that, but also withdrawn before the hour. What's the feeling about him now for the remaining games?
Well, I had him on the bench anyway because I thought there was a risk that he would play left back, and if he played left back, it wouldn't have been good. Um, I mean, he got withdrawn because he was on a yellow card, and the game got quite choppy. So I think maybe that. I think he was playing better than Iwobi, but I think Iwobi wasn't on a yellow, so I think that's why he got taken off early. Um, I think he's fine for the next two. Well, I think he's fine for the next three if you're stuck, but I think he's cheap enough to leave on the bench. But I still think he'll start.
You think you'll start against Everton? You got to play him then,
Yeah.
haven't you?
I mean, I'm not
OOP
looking at my
at
team.
home game.
I've
You've got to
not
really,
looked at my
haven't you?
team, but if I'll probably will start him. Yeah.
Sean, any Fulham for you at the moment?
No, just checking. No, I had Robinson, um, but no, I moved him on the wild card. I had Awobi last week, on free hit, got an assist out of him, but currently no Fulham and no Everton.
Lewis, on Robinson, he's playing with an injury, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's been playing with it for a long time. I think it's probably feasible to say he's had it maybe since February. And actually, if you look at his stats, they have dropped off a bit. Like his assists, for example, he was like 10 assists. That's dropped off. And I mean, even yesterday, he's probably only at 60%, and he's not doing half of the overlapping runs that he would normally do. And that massively affects our ability to move up the pitch because he's such a key part of the transition that Silva likes to play. So yeah, he's playing with an injury, but you know we haven't really got. You couldn't have put Sessegnon on left back because he's not a left back.
I take it we're thinking it only happened against Southampton where Robinson didn't play because it was Southampton,
Yeah, it
i.e.
was
almost like a we can
purely.
definitely get away with this kind of gig, right?
Yeah, I think that was purely all it was.
Yeah,
South.
I mean, if you look at what's coming next, McNeil, Bumo, and then whatever City decide to put there, Robinson will play these last few games when I guess unless if it went badly and you couldn't finish eighth, they obviously might say stop, right?
Yeah, I think as long as he doesn't have I think he did an interview where he said it flares up swelling. So I think, but he's such an athlete that he seems to recover from things. He's always, he still looks like he's fresh. at the 90th minute sort of thing. So I think his recovery is really good. I just purely think that he missed that game because of who the opponent was, more than because of whatever injury he had, because he's been injured for so long.
Makes sense. Castagne owners.
So
He's not getting back in, is he?
no, I think it's interesting as well because we've got a lot of players out of contract in the summer, and Tetty is one of them. And we've not announced any deals for any players. Tetty doesn't have an option of 1 year as well, so I think the fact that Tetty's came straight back in basically after a couple of cameos, and he's supposed to be leaving in 3 games' time probably says it all.
Or they're trying to convince him to stay by playing him.
Yeah, I don't think he will leave, to be honest. I think it's a strange decision to drop because I understand it maybe like giving him like a game off because he's played every single minute of every game in every competition for the last 4 months when Tetty was injured. But now the fact it's gone on for a few games now, and if I'm honest, Tetty is a more superior right back to Castagna.
Yeah,
So
fair. Um, I'm guessing of the midfielders, Iwobi's probably the only one that's got ownership at the moment. Would you be keeping that or looking to move that on? And I guess we probably can fit Jimenez into that discussion as well.
I'd get rid of both of them.
Really,
Uh,
even Everton at home next fixture, you'd be looking to move on.
yeah, I think well you can keep them for Everton, but I think if there's a transfer that you want out there, but you decide you keep I wouldn't keep the Fulham asset because of the fixture. I think we're missing a few players with injuries. We've got a couple of players in injuries at that end of the pitch, and I think it makes a massive difference to other assets.
Okay.
So
So no reason to invest in Fulham new at all then at this moment, really.
I wouldn't. Maybe if you're feeling rogue, maybe Cess. But even then, I think obviously Wilson's going to take minutes off him. Traore's going to take minutes off him. I think there's just better places to punt than Fulham probably
Yeah,
right now.
I agree. So did you just wildcard this week just gone going into 35
No, last week
the week
on the
before?
blind.
Did you
Yeah.
go any Everton or not?
Yeah, I've got Pickford.
Okay.
But I've got Pickford and I've got Nick Pope to flip between their fixtures.
Okay. That's an
But I
interesting
will be
one.
paying Pickford this week.
You'll play Pickford over Pope. Newcastle at home to Chelsea.
Yeah.
Sean had this kind of agonising. I don't think you should do that, mate. Sean, should you play Pickford or Pope this week? Newcastle at home to Chelsea. You at Fulham.
I don't think it matters.
I don't know. The clean sheet for Newcastle might be bearing in
Mm.
mind they're at home at St James's.
Yeah, Chelsea always seem to score though, don't they? Somehow, someone will pop up. Probably Cucurella.
Okay. How many Everton you got, Sean?
I haven't got any.
Right, I've just wildcarded in two pricks. Well, actually, I'd say I wildcarded in two pricks. I had Pickford anyway, just decided to keep him.
Keep them.
And I added in because I do listen to you sometimes, Sean. I added in O'Brien.
Oh, okay.
I
You
went double
played him
Everton.
yesterday.
Yeah.
I went
Oh,
double Everton defence. And I've got to be honest, Sean, the only feedback I had from people was, have you considered going treble?
yeah, but that's just people looking at the fixtures, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I didn't do it because I thought, wow, Everton. I did it because you had Ipswich and
Yeah,
Southampton
yeah,
as your last two home games, mate.
yeah. But they've Ipswich and Southampton have wiped out a few clean sheets of good defences. So it's. I think you've got. I don't know. There's not loads of great options out there anyway, is there? So you can look at it two ways. I just looked at it. I don't see us keeping any clean sheets.
Well, I
So
don't intend
swear.
to, obviously, with what you've got left, the Fulham and Newcastle away games, I don't intend to play them. Although I suspect, yeah, I wouldn't be that shocked if you went to Fulham and won 1-0. It would be
Yeah, yeah,
typical. I get that.
yeah,
But with what I've got of other players, I've got Sells Williams playing Leicester at home. Obviously, this is subject to whatever's happened with the games on Sunday. Vardiol at Southampton and Collins at Ipswich.
yeah.
So
I mean,
all my defensive players are playing the bottom three this week, so I'm not going to start O'Brien or Pickford as it stands.
yeah. It's a logical plan in it, but the way football goes, it just Yeah, they'll concede, and
I,
Everton will probably keep a clean sheet. But
I,
you know that's why I just stayed away from them.
I was out and I saw you was 2-0 up, and I thought, oh, it's only
Happy
going to be
days.
six. It's only going to be 6 pointers this because there's other players scoring goals, and then Ipswich scored, and it's like pricks. Not that I was expecting clean sheets from both of the home games. Probably thinking, yeah, maybe from one. And with O'Brien, I'm sort of hoping for
A
the dodgy
goal. Yeah,
15 pointer that
yeah,
might drop there. I have to say,
yeah,
when I saw Enciso's goal, as I said to you before we started, I did feel a bit better. I thought, well, if you're going to blow the double clean sheet, at least get it blown like that.
yeah,
I'm right not to start those Everton players, despite what we've said on the weekend against Fulham. Right, I've got to pick the other players as it stands.
yeah.
But I've also still got to play them both against Southampton in 37 for the last game at Goodison Park, where half the team might be like drunk, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
a good. Is that a good reason not to buy Everton players?
It-
That it, with these celebrations, your concentration, it's not
yeah,
unless you're 1-0. I think if you're 1-0 up with like a couple of minutes to go, your concentration will be really on it. It'll be like got to win the last game at Goodison. But it feels like it could be one where you end up winning like 4-2 and it becomes like a bit of a party or something. Does it feel that way to you?
yeah. Definitely. Well, I can't see us scoring 4 goals, sadly. But yeah, I get what you're saying, and I do. You know, there's a little bit of that yesterday with Francisco. You know, he had all the time and space in the world. He sort of get gone a game like really easily, and then it opened up, and he can, you know, he can hit one,
I mean, at the
and he
same
didn't.
time, if someone was lying up shoot from there, you would all think, go on then.
Oh,
Like,
I
good luck with
definitely,
that. Like, it's a
yeah,
worldie, isn't it?
absolutely, it was, but that does seem to happen all too often with Everton. For as long as I can remember, we're really poor in that middle part of the pitch, just in front of the defence. Yeah, I'm sure someone from Southampton will smash one in that game. Um, like I say, I think it's only going to get like more sort of lax as these
I hear
games
you.
tick on. So I'd be really surprised if we keep a clean sheet against Southampton. But you know, if you've got them, if people don't have Everton players, I'd just say don't just stay away, go somewhere else.
Okay,
But
different
like
question.
yourself, you'd have to play them.
Dodgy one, right? This so in 37 currently, and again, we're pre-recording this on Sunday morning. If the Villa Tottenham game doesn't move, and if my team is lucky enough to make the Europa final, I would suggest Ollie Watkins against Tottenham actually is probably the best captaincy. But that in itself almost sums up that 37 is quite wide open for captaincy. So, Sean, my question to you is: who are you buying? Is it McNeil, Decore, Alcaraz, Beto? Who are you buying to captain for the last ever game at Goodison Park?
It would be Dwight McNeil.
Yeah, it's a shame for those of us in Wildcard 35 that he wasn't back available, i.e., starting games prior to this, or he might have gone in for me, mate. And obviously back in the team yesterday. Beautiful goal we got.
Yeah, yeah. I stuck him in lads. Fancy football team because I'm not really bothered about that. But he loves having an player in there, so I managed to convince him to put Dwight in. Um, he's definitely the one to have because he will definitely play now. You know, was pretty confident he was going to start yesterday, and he did. So if he stays fit, he'll play the majority of the minutes in the last few games. Whereas the other candidates, it's just up in the air whether they'll
Yeah,
play or not.
and even particularly obviously Decore missed out for personal reasons.
Yeah,
So obviously we don't at the time of recording
no, don't
we
know.
don't know
No,
what that is, but he could well be back next week. Who drops out? Is it Alcaraz back out and Ndai back for the
yeah,
left? Is that the most
it would
likely?
all yeah, it seemed to be the Kure or Alcaraz, mainly the Kure. Which is little bit strange, but it's you know to do with we automatically have to buy Alcaraz if he makes X amount of starts, and now even if he starts every game, that doesn't get triggered. So that to me says he's more likely to play because he can have a free hit at looking at him without being obligated to buy him.
Okay. Is there a chance that Calvert-Lewin plays the Southampton home game out of some form of sentiment?
I think he definitely will. I think he definitely
Really?
start. Yeah, yeah. I think he will 100% start that game as long as he's fit, obviously.
Well, he was obviously back on the bench yesterday.
Yeah, yeah. I think he'll be
That
on the bench again against Fulham. He'll probably come on and play half an hour, and then I think he'll start against Southampton.
I mean, if Beto's obviously scored a really good headed goal yesterday, he's done really well actually in terms of how he's covered and kind of carried the load because obviously Breuer was injured as well. Then Breuer came in for a bit. Breuer did okay as well. There was quite a bit of discussion from some of our patrons last week about Breuer versus Beto, and I was like, this is a bit too messy.
Yeah.
Dom's nearly fit as well. If Beto scores again at Fulham this weekend and then doesn't start the Southampton game, it's harsh on him, isn't it? Because presumably all these players are going to want to play that last game at Goodison.
Definitely. The problem with Beto is his overall games like really really low quality. It's really poor. He's had some games like the Crystal Palace away game. He was fantastic, and I thought Liverpool he was fantastic, and I thought okay, the coaching's coming in here. He's listening and he's working hard and he's getting better, and then it just sort of went back to being unable to control the ball, bouncing off him, can't hold it up, and he's a big lad. And the goal against Chelsea was pretty shocking from all involved. But the way he can't hold the ball up, it bounces off him, and then they're in and they score. And I think you can clearly see that that's like irritating Moyes. But Broja just offered nothing whatsoever. So it wasn't as if because obviously he couldn't play against Chelsea, but it's not as if he's put his hand in the air and gone, hey, on, Mr. Manager, play me. You know what I mean? I'm better than this lad. So Moyes doesn't seem to fancy Chimity. So I just think Don, we saw it yesterday. As soon as Don come on, you could clearly see his levels above in holding the ball up and linking the play. And Moyes really likes that. His Everton teams in the past haven't relied on a striker. It's been more about the midfield and the wide players. And we used to go through strikers like there was no tomorrow under Moyes. So I think Dom's almost certainly going to play that game against Southampton.
But you have to remember here as well, there's a chance people will free hit in 37. So if they do, they're going to be drawn to that. You couldn't take that Calvert-Lewin gamble unless either he started against Fulham or unless Moyes said Dom's going to start at the weekend. You couldn't, could you?
No, and this is why I think it's I haven't currently got any other players, and I'd be reluctant to put anyone other than McNeil in for that Southampton game because there's just too much risk. I mean, even if Dom starts, if I'm right, Dom starts, he won't play 90 minutes.
Yeah, the others will get on for him anyway. It'd be
Yeah,
restricted, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I knew. Obviously, it's a small crowd that just might have their free hit left, and they're going to choose a week with what they've got. If you go 37, you're going to go some Everton. I think, yeah, McNeil would definitely go in now that he's back in the team. You would still go, I think, at least one defensive, Sean. So
Well,
go on. Which one?
people will for the Southampton game. I'd go O'Brien. I'd go O'Brien, especially now McNeil's back. The set pieces should be better. So Jake O'Brien's a massive threat.
So still him over Brantwaite, even though obviously they're playing
Yeah,
alongside each other at centre back.
for me, yeah, O'Brien definitely.
All right. Thank you for making me feel better about my shit choice and my 0 pointer at the weekend. Gentlemen, thank you both so much. Let's do some predictions before we finish. Go on then, Lewis. Give us a correct score prediction for the game against Everton.
1-0 Fulham.
1-0 Fulham. Play your Fulham defensive assets. Sean,
I think it will be got there'll be goals in this. I think it might be like another 2-2.
okay. Good luck, gentlemen. Lewis, anything you want to plug before we finish?
No, just try and get Sean a ticket for the Southampton game.
Great
Yeah,
shout. Right.
top man.
On a serious, right? Look at
Yes,
his little face. Give us a little
please,
smile.
please.
John, do you want to do
What
a speech? Go on. Go on.
a speech?
Yeah, like why you deserve a ticket or
I can't do like a little sad face or nothing, but like yeah, please look after me, get me a ticket. Somebody just you can have however much money you want. I'll give it you. I need to be at Goodison Park for the last game. I'm 47, sadly. I've been going since I was 7. I've made terrible women choices in my life, which led me to me giving up my season ticket. So feel sorry for your boy, and please get me a ticket for that match. I love you forever.
brilliant. Nico, if you've got any violin music that's not copyright claimed, stick it on over that, please, mate, to just help Sean his claim. Yes, please try and get Sean I suppose that's your plug, isn't it, Sean? You don't need to plug anything else.
That's done. That is the plug.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you both so much. I would comment on what's next from a content perspective, but it's so bloody early in the week that I don't actually know yet. So I'm just going to say thank you very much to Lewis and Sean. Good luck, gentlemen. Cue music, please, man child.